Today we're lucky enough to have the one and only Tyrone Tangata-Makiri, a GI local, came through Point England School, man of many talents and a lot of hats he wears, which you'll find out during this podcast. But it's so great to have you on the show. Welcome, Tyrone.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Well, if you could just tell our listeners maybe a little bit about yourself, like from your schooling, and then we went from there, and yeah.
Yeah, cool. Ko waioi, ko Tyrone Tangata-Makiri toki ingoa, both of Cook Island and Māori descent. Yes, I'm from GI. I like to say actually I'm from Point England. For anyone that's obviously lived out here, there's a bit of a difference, but we all still whānau. But yeah, did a lot of my schooling at Point England Primary. I really loved my time at the school, and obviously we'll talk about how I feel it exposed me to a lot of the stuff that I'm still doing now. So yeah.
Mean. And then so from Point England, where did you go next? Like what was the next step in your life?
Yeah, cool. So after Point England Primary, I went to Remuera Intermediate,
Cool.
Which was an experience in itself. I have to say, predominantly at Point England, it was Māori and Pacific.
Yeah.
Going to Remuera, we're kind of the minority.
Culture, right?
Yeah, different culture. So I think for me, in terms of my learning experience, it was great, to kind of learn, how other people function in society. And then my heart was set on going to something like Tamaki College.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the, friendships I had playing sport, I played rugby league my whole life.
Yeah.
Playing at Mount Wellington, so a lot of them went to Tamaki College.
Yeah.
But I went up to Selwyn College and enjoyed that experience there as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Also, so from Remuera Intermediate back to Selwyn.
Yeah.
Which Selwyn's kind of like a mixture of like cultures.
Yeah, very mixed. So I think I don't know how it is now, but I think they used to talk about there's 81 different countries here. And you kind of figure that out as you kind of go through the school too. Like there are a lot of countries I had never heard of previous to going there. And you kind of learn the difference of like, what they've come through. A lot of people came from like war-stricken countries.
Wow.
So I think there was a lot of like, for me anyway, just like learning. And then you're a young adolescent trying to figure out life. So
that's true. You got that whole shenanigans.
You're trying to figure out yourself, let alone, these people that have come from, refugees to New Zealand and their experiences. So I actually liked it for that fact because, again, you got to learn a bit more around different people. Like I'm always hanging out in this community with our people, but just seeing how other people have come to New Zealand and, what they've experienced, I was like, man, this is different.
Yeah, that is cool. That's cool. Oh, nice. I see you mentioned the Mount Wellington Warriors. As a fellow, actually wore the shirt for you, Taylor, if you
Nice.
But as a fellow Warriors fanatic, a league fanatic, I've seen something online that you mentioned about how league actually has shaped your identity, and I thought that was really cool. And I know myself as well. As long as the listeners would love to know like a bit about what you actually mean by that, like because sport's deep. It can get very deep, and yeah, I'd love to hear your story about that.
Yeah, cool. So as I mentioned, I played most of my sporting or league career at Mount Wellington. The reason why is because my dad was my coach. So I started at under sixes, built some relationships with some of the obviously players there, and my dad was kind of just came in as a supporter to put me into the sport. But the second year, he actually became my coach and stayed as my coach for my
always happens.
It always happens. So the volunteer gets pulled in. And so, yeah, obviously played sport my whole life. A lot of the players and parents who are at the club all from this area as well. So it kind of felt cool to like, go play the sport on, Saturday and trainings on Tuesdays and Thursdays or Mondays and Wednesdays. And then come back to school and have some of those familiar people to kind of hang out with. And when I think about it kind of shaping, who I am, and the person I've become, it's like I've been kind of forever in kind of community spaces, whether that be me, playing and you just kind of, get to be around a lot of people. I wouldn't say from different places, but like from the community and get to see a lot of stuff. But then see my dad having to be the coach and having to deal with, I guess, a lot of things that people don't understand when it comes to being in a position like a coach.
Yeah.
There's a lot of boys that are missing out on positions, and there's a lot of, late nights when my dad's staying there a couple hours later to kind of clean up or do things. So
it's hard, man.
When I say it shaped my identity, is more or less seeing it through my eyes and seeing what my dad had to do and kind of learning like, if you really want to be in community and I guess serve your community, there's a lot of unpretty things that you have to do and also don't get paid for, you just do it because of the passion of your heart. So yeah, that's what I mean in terms of it shaping me, because I got to see, yeah, I want to be a part of that. And when I mean be a part of that, a lot of the work I've done over the years have been more in community spaces.
Mm.
And yeah, there's just a lot of things that you don't show on social media or talk about, but you do it because of, your love for your community.
That's cool, man. I suppose like thinking about, like, I know, and you'll talk about later about the many hats in our community that you do, let alone other communities as well. But I suppose you were kind of sounds like you were exposed to that at an early age from your dad, and how he was a kind of pillar in the community with his sports and
Yep.
and whatnot. But yeah, that must have been quite like a great role model having growing up.
Oh, for sure. And I like, for me, and I didn't realize it, I guess, when going through it, but
Yeah,
my dad, like, he worked the graveyard shift, so he would be up 12 a.m., going to work, and then finishing about 11 to 12 in the daytime, and then find some time to sleep, and then come and hang out with us. Hang out with a bunch of boys, and girls. There was definitely
Yep.
girls in our team, especially growing up, and trying to corral us together to kind of do stuff. While this guy's probably knowing that at 12 o'clock I gotta wake up or go to work. So for me, seeing kind of the dedication he had, didn't get credit for it for a
Yeah.
lot of times. Even for me, I was probably one that, I was like, what, you go work, come and hang out with us.
Yeah.
So being able to see, I guess, that kind of work ethic and just his love for, I guess, not only the game, but just the love to hang out with myself and do it in a way that we could hang out with other people. I think now that's what I understood of the whole experience. And
Yeah.
I think it's really shaped me now, being a father, being in spaces where I'm like, I'm trying my best not to be coach of everything, because I think there's always a challenge with it as well.
Who's your the newest GI Eagles basketball coach?
And man, I love being in these spaces, but I think you kind of recognize, especially now being older, like how much time and effort needs to go into that.
Yeah.
And I really give it up to my dad and my mum. My mum had to deal with, we're out doing all of that. There's all the stuff that we need to do at home. And I think for me, it's grounded me in the sense of, like, you can do some really wonderful and fun things in life. Like, we did some really cool things as a league team, winning one of many championships, and a few of the players that play for our team went and kind of played in the NRL and all of that stuff. So there's definitely things that have come from that. But I think for me, the main thing was like, man, I could hang out with my dad a lot.
Yeah.
And that's something that I'll cherish. Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out Mount Wellington Warriors.
Shout out.
Cool. All right. So when we think about like our schooling and some of the early opportunities you were able to use technology creatively, whether it was with a computer, Chromebook, iMac, who knows what does that kind of throw back to you? Like, what do you think about when you think of that?
Yeah. So don't want to show my age here, but I guess when technology was around, for us, like, it meant dial up, it meant all these things that we didn't have. I'll be honest. So my dad or my parents at the time, they went and got a computer. They kind of saw it as like, oh, this thing's coming, you should be on computers. And I don't think they necessarily knew that, like, what Point England was doing when I was young. But they got me a computer, so I was kind of like early bird, like playing with different things on the computer. Like, my dad got all these like educational games I used to play.
Yeah.
So I remember being a bit of a head start, was playing all these educational games, and then actually my schooling career didn't start at Point England. It actually started at I'll take my hat off. My schooling career didn't start at Point England. It started at Glenbrae School. So I went there first for a couple of years. And the reason why I went there is because a lot of my family went there.
Okay.
And we had a lot of family around Labourne Circle.
Don't get a choice, eh?
Yeah. So it just kind of was easier. Easier to be with the family.
Yeah.
But then my family lived over here in Point England, so they were like, instead of having to travel over there, again, not too far.
Yeah.
Why don't we just do schooling that was a lot closer?
Yeah.
So yeah, during that time, I was still on computers, like trying to play all these educational games. And then when I went to Point England, they had obviously extension class at that time. So for me, I was lucky enough to be in that class, and we got to be exposed to a lot more computers and what we can do with it. I had a bit of a passion around like trying to draw stuff and stuff like that. So how can I do this on computer? So yeah, my early kind of, I guess, being into the kind of computer space was at home.
Okay.
And then being able to go to school, like Point England, I was able to kind of do some more stuff. And at that time, it was extension class for Point England.
Yeah.
And there was only a certain amount of kids for our classes. So there was 2 classes. Only a certain amount of us that can actually go and do that. So it's kind of that privilege of like you get to play on these computers, not everyone else is doing it.
Yeah.
There's some projects we got to work on, and mostly it was like animation type stuff.
Cool.
So that was kind of my like first exposure.
Mean. So is that being an extension means you're a bit of a scholar?
I don't want to say it, but since you brung it up, but
nah, that's cool, man. That's Do you the stuff that you were? I can think for me, it sounds like you kind of like you were already interested in this stuff when your parents got you the computer at home. So then, like, it must have been pretty cool when like you were like, right, we're actually doing this for school, and you're like, wait, what? Like, were you pretty like excited?
No, I was excited because I think for me, and again, like I was seeing it as like I get to play more games.
Yeah.
So being able to be in that extension class and then being able to like because what was cool about it, and I'm pretty sure it's probably carried on. It's like they gave you assignment or project. But you got to be creative and do whatever.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time, I thought the time just went really fast because I was just like, man, I'm just going for it. Then all of a sudden, time's up and we have to go and do other stuff. So for me, it was just again an opportunity just to kind of get into that, what they call now flow state.
Yeah.
And I remember just being just stuck at the computer and just making weird ass images. Yeah, doing squares, circles, then turning that into animations. I actually remember I did a chat recently for Manaiakalani, and Dorothy Burp brought up an old image that I had drawn. And it was an old Captain Cook and a boat that I'd done way back then.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shucks, I actually had forgotten this, but now it brings up memories of me just sitting there and just playing with the computer all day. Yeah.
I wonder if do you think I know where you are now you're still very creative, with your I know your goals and everything that you have is is real cool. Do you think that is potentially where it started, with your
1000%? I actually always mention when people ask where did this come from? Yes, it came from having a computer at home, but I was just playing games. But I always say it came from being at Point England and actually being on computers and actually showing how to kind of use it. Got exposed so early to things that you can do on it. I think that set off something for me till now. I've always been thinking about how can we use technology, especially in our communities.
Okay.
So I always say like I said, that if it wasn't being at Point England and being exposed to what's possible, I don't know if I would be in the space right now. So
crazy. That's just mic drop right there. That's cool though, bro. So I suppose another thing I think about is when you're at Point England, right, and you have all this exposure to all your devices and your extension with your IMAX and whatnot.
Yeah.
Take yourself back to when you're 11 years old, right, and you move schools. Do you feel like you maybe had a bit of a leg up when it comes to technology, or did you feel like it was you had some sort of advantage in terms of where you were at in your kind of education?
Yeah, cool. So, happy to kind of share my experience. So, going from Point England to Remuera, there was obviously a difference in class in terms of, for us, even, for me growing up out here, didn't really have much money, and to be able to have these devices and be able to kind of learn from it was great. But going to spaces like that, we didn't necessarily use computers within our work.
Okay.
But going to their houses and see what they had privileges to was a very different experience. What I found is that I had a foundation. I could actually, not just kind of, do things on the computer, but I think the exposure that we got is I could see possibilities of oh, okay, if these guys, for a lot of their parents, they're to be honest, they were in mansions. They were telling me all the, jobs that they had and all that. And I was like, well, actually, I think I could be something like this because we've got a good foundation. I don't think you guys are too far away from, who I am and what I want to become. But I don't think I would have had that if I kind of wasn't exposed to a few things. And I feel like there was I don't know how to kind of articulate it properly, but there was just kind of a level of I don't think the gap's far. I actually think it's very close, because I know you guys, I know a few things, and it sounds like, we're not too far distant if you guys have got these big jobs and big houses.
Yeah.
So it was a different experience, and I kind of felt confident going into those spaces.
That's cool.
I don't know if I would have been confident if I wasn't exposed to things.
Yeah.
So that's how I used to see it.
That's cool. And even like, yeah, man, that's cool. Like even just hearing that, like your experience of like going from there and having all these skills that you had that you probably at the time just thought it was probably normal to you.
Yeah.
And then when you go to these places that have all this like real bougie stuff and like and just kind of thinking like it was like, oh, definitely understanding that like, man, this is crazy. Like how you guys got all the stuff, but just being able to be so confident in yourself in terms of yeah, that's cool.
And I think maybe to extend to that too, I think besides the digital learning that we got at Point England, I think there was a lot of things that the school did to kind of expose us to, like, whether it would be speaking or doing other things. So I think a lot of my confidence came from, yes, we got to learn some cool stuff, but like, take PE in, being able to speak and do that at a young age. I was not shy to, speak and be in places where they were asked, like, come and speak on a camera. This was like throughout my whole schooling career. I was like, yeah, I've done this. Like, this is nothing new to me.
You get exposed to it at a young age.
I got exposed and I got comfortable with like the idea of being in camera. But they also got comfortable in being in leadership positions. Like, this is so weird to say it, but I guess it's important, is that through all my schooling career, I was always kind of like a head student in most of those spaces. So even at Remier Intermediate and then to Selwyn College, I was head student. I think a lot of it came to like, I was just exposed to things at an earlier age where I felt confident to like, no one wants to speak, I'll stand up and speak.
Yeah,
So I think a lot of that, again, came back to being at Point England and they're saying, jump on PNN and just read this thing. And I'm like, okay, I'll just do it. But not knowing we're putting in the reps, for later in life. So that's how I felt. Yeah. Getting leadership too.
I think that's so cool. Like, and I think it's like you speak of it so thing, but like we'll hear about this a little bit later, I'm sure. But like, I know now that you speak in front of large groups of people for a part of your job. And I mean, that's like, a lot of people freak out in terms of like public speaking. I know you're a very confident person yourself, but you're right. Like being put in those positions that you, and I know at school, like there's times when we've spoken about where you just kind of, you put your hand up, but there's multiple people at the time that kind of sometimes will offer to speak. But I know there's definitely times where it's like, oh, cool. Yep. You can do this. And there's like, it's a normal thing just to be thrown out to do that. And I think that's cool. That you've like gained a lot of confidence like in yourself from that, which I think so.
Cool.
Can you remember something that you created at school? Maybe the picture that you just spoke about that you kind of were like genuinely proud of, that you were able to maybe share outside the classroom.
Yeah.
Or beyond the classroom, so to speak.
I will talk to something digital, and then I will talk to something that was actually physical that I still use to this day.
Yep.
So one of the things is that at the time we had what is it, production?
Oh yeah.
So obviously those that were interested in being in it physically, whether they be a dancer to the actor, which I actually was a dancer. So if you want to go look up, what was it? Cinderella in the House.
I think it's Cindy in the House.
Yeah. So something like that, where it was a kind of spin-off of obviously Cinderella.
Yeah.
It was a dancer, so it's hilarious when I watch it back. I've seen it a couple of times now. But we also the animators too. So kind of between breaks, we were the ones that kind of have animations up and all that.
Oh, mean.
So I just remember at that time. So yeah, that was part of our project, is like create the different scenes that go in between.
Cool.
And kind of very proud of that, because again, watching it back, laughing at myself being a dancer, but seeing the screens and seeing what we were creating.
It's a whole nother thing.
Just like creating mouses that were moving and trying to do stop animation was hilarious watching it. But yeah, very proud of that, because I think for me it showed like your work that you can do is not just like a cool picture you hang up on the fridge. It could actually be something that, all these people are watching. It could be a whole production.
Yeah.
So for me, like, I'm really big on how do you create experiences.
Yep.
So part of that experience is like, what are the different senses? So there's the visuals, the audios, the smell, the sense. And I feel like, man, I was at a young kid going, cool, when our thing's up on there, it's not just a mouse that's moving because of the scene. It's like, what are people going to see? And I remember just like us getting kind of coached and kind of, you're not just making a animation, you're actually making something that people are going to watch and all glue their eyes before they watch the people again. So I always think about that. And then the physical thing. So at the time we did this thing called Box City.
Okay.
So I think it was kind of the precursor to obviously what's happened in our area, where now there's been a lot of development and houses and all of that.
Okay.
So we're kind of given a school project to work on utilizing cartons of boxes and anything you can find in a recycling bin,
Yeah.
and kind of make your own house or something you can do. So the whole school did it, and we all had our own little houses. But the reason why I say that is because I think for an early age, and again I credit back to the Port England, they're always teaching us how to shape the world.
Okay.
And for me, it was like, as simple as gluing some carton sticks and painting it. And they even got us to go through the process of like how you would, again, I don't know the construction industry that well, but how you go through consents and all of that stuff and take us through that. And then why I remember is because I got a photo taken.
Yeah.
So there was a photo taken of me holding it up. But I always kind of like put that image
That's cool.
as like a clear thing of like, see, they were telling us to shape the world, not just take the world as it is. Like, can we learn all these skills and these tools and then build our own house and build our own version? So I think when I think about the work I'm doing now in communities, it's that. It's like, thank you for the foundations everyone else has come between us, but like, what can we create? Like, can we create a whole studio? Can we do different things? Like, what does that actually look like? And I always credit back to like, because I got exposed early to that thinking. I think it's just been this whole kind of, expanding on that thinking.
Yeah.
So
That's a cool project. I'm actually gonna do that with my kids in the class. Thanks for my next week's planning.
No worries.
That's cool. I understand you studied creative technologies at AUT. Cool. So if you can kind of tell us about from there, what a cool degree, and like from there, where you went, and kind of give us a bit of a timeline spiel of where you went from there, and then kind of where you're at and what you do for mahi now would be
cool.
amazing.
I'll start probably at high school. I was probably like most kids wondering like, what am I going to do after this? I'll be honest, a lot of the I guess influence from home was like, if you can't find a scholarship, you're going to have to go find a job, because there's no way in heck we're paying for this. So there was a lot of things that I was trying to figure out at that time. But fortunately, like, I was able to kind of land a scholarship that gave me the opportunity to go, cool, what do I want to study? And at that time, I was still interested in creative, ventures. More specifically, I have to say was around creating videos and content. That was kind of what I was really interested in. And I think that's, again, starting from back at school and then just kind of always doing kind of media related stuff. So I was looking at that. I was also interested in like, given technology and where it was at, I was like, oh, I'd love to be able to code and kind of do stuff around that as well. So I was kind of looking at those two pieces. So then I went and did the typical thing of going to all the orientation days and kind of seeing what was available. And where I landed was creative technologies, and specifically why there is because I was kind of unsure of going specialize in any kind of area. Creative technology said we can learn all of that. You can learn coding, you can do media, you can do a few things. So I was like, they said the only thing is like it's a very new degree. We don't know, whether you'll get a job from this, because it's like we're the second year ever of that degree, and this was at AUT.
Okay.
So they said you are taking a risk, but you are going to learn a lot of things. So for someone like myself, I was like, well, I'd rather go do that, and then just kind of find out where it goes. So went to AUT doing Bachelor in Creative Technologies, and that was interesting because I think the difference from going from like high school to university is that you're on your own.
Okay.
Like for me, there was no one else that I knew besides other Selwyn students going into different things. But basically by yourself, you're supposed to get to class by yourself.
Crazy, eh?
So I was very I guess I was very challenged in that sense of like even mum and dad at that point, you're 18 now. What are we going to tell you? You go do your own thing. So it's like trying to self-manage was quite difficult. But in terms of the work, once I got to school and all of that, it was fun. Like, again, got to do all these creative different things, learned how to program, learned how to make not just videos, but like learned how to make different type of rigs and put cameras on there and make weird stuff. And just did a lot of that different things. But what kind of changed for me is that during that time, a close friend of mine that actually went to Port England, his brother passed away. And for situations we wouldn't go into, but it really changed the kind of perspective I had on like, cool, love to learn this stuff. And, at the time I was like going to a big corporate job and trying to do all of that. But I was at that time going, how can we use technology for good? Like, I'm learning all these things. How can I do stuff in community settings to create better spaces and environments? So that's what I did. So basically, I was doing kind of like public installations, trying to do things that may excite people, especially in communities like ours, to like look at technology as like an option. And what it led me to is got to work in my first full-time role at Auckland Council as a community development advisor. So I was fortunate enough to meet some people along the way that said, man, we really need someone that has kind of like a technical kind of lens to things. Part of it was like, how can you turn on computers and do all this stuff?
Wow.
But also, how do you work in communities, thinking about how technology plays a role in that space? So I managed to get a full-time role in that. And that was my first full-time role ever. So going from all these part-time gigs and all that, even though I don't explain it, but I did all these little things to, this is your full-time role. At the time was well paying for, even for my family, like, man, you guys you're making more than I have ever seen. And I was like, oh, this is just my first role. I'm just trying to roll with it. So it was like all these things going on, but it again came from like, have been developing all these skills and kind of found an interest and found a role that could kind of serve those two interests.
Yeah.
So I did that for 3 years, and it was such a good exposure, because I think when you're working in community, especially in like community, when if I take working in this community, you volunteer, you just do things, and you kind of look at people that are in organizations and go, man, you guys got heaps of money. Like, why aren't you able to fund and do some stuff over here? Getting into those places, I realized, it's not as easy to kind of get money out. And like, I've had so many conversations with people, but the truth is, it's like, there's so much, I want to say, things you have to go through in order to get things started. So it's not like with community, if I want to go start a barbecue down the road, I can go do it.
Yeah.
When you're in a role, especially the role I was in, it's like, we got to go get sign-offs. We got to make sure that we've put a whole safety plan together. And it's like, before you know it, you're kind of over it, because you're like, man, there's so much work to just get things started. And it made sense though, because obviously, they're thinking about, what does this mean if something goes wrong?
Yeah.
But I was like, actually the challenge here is like, they may have resources, but part of this is like, they've also got to be very wary of, what happens in community spaces. So it wasn't what I learned from it wasn't a wrong perspective. It just meant that actually there's kind of some pros and cons in everything. But I think through that work and doing all that stuff, I was always looking for, how can we be more creative, not just with the stuff we produce, but even like, how can we creatively, do a community project that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to go through all those, not to say we're skipping any safety things, but it's like, maybe actually it's about, how do we create a fund or opportunity that supports people to do that, because we have got some things that we have to figure out. So always try to be creative, and like, how do you get funds? How do you get projects going? And I think, again, it's because I had this kind of brain and training of like, surely there's a way to figure it out.
Yeah.
So I guess fast forward to the work I do now is very much in that same space of, I guess the role I do is kind of supporting communities around AI and, what that means for communities. But really it's trying to say, hey, this thing's here. There are, I guess, narratives, and these things are like how you can use it, but how can we shape it? How can we be the shapers of potentially this technology, and potentially how society kind of goes and develops over time? So I don't think I've explained that very, very well, but there's kind of been this kind of thread when I look back to my life back at Point England all the way to now of like, again, I feel like all the skills I was learning is like, you can have the thing and create the thing, or you can shape the thing.
Yeah.
And how do you ensure that the thing you shape, serves other people? So that's kind of been this common thread I think I've gone with for most of my life. Yeah.
Man, that's cool, man. Man, there's so much.
Yes,
there's
so much. I feel like I just said a lot of things.
You know what? There's so much to unpack out of what you've just said. I'm like, where do we even go? Where do I start? But I think what I think of about you is like, you're someone who will continue to look to go beyond of what you are told, like, or not told to do, but like, when I think of your job at the council, right, I'm sure what you did was a lot more than what was kind of in that position, so to speak.
Yeah.
You're continuing. You're always looking at like what's next, what's here. Like, I think that's a skill that a lot of people don't have. A lot of people sit in their kind of position. They're like, oh, we're happy here. We get my paycheck. Paycheck. But you kind of always kind of look for the next position, the next opportunity, and like I don't know if that maybe leads into the next part of like, I know at the moment, even in your current position, you're still in lots of places and you've got lots of hats. But are you able to tell us a little bit about like what it actually is? I know you on your hat I saw before, but you just wanted to show your slick haircut. You've got your new business that you've started. Was it a couple of years ago?
This one, 2 years ago. Yep.
Yeah. So maybe if you could tell us a little bit about that, and then I know it's like you're doing amazing stuff with AI in our community at the moment. And if you could just tell us a bit about maybe your business and some of your different hats that you wear from your day-to-day life.
Yeah, cool. So I co-run second half with my not only business partner but my life partner, Camilla. Kind of where it started for us was that so obviously I've been doing a bit of work since creative technology days around how we can use technology for good. So I've always been interested in kind of automation and what they may mean for our people. See, me talking about my dad, he's always done labor-intense jobs. And when I heard about automation, I was like, well, if these robots come, those roles that they will probably take are the roles that most of our people have.
Yep.
So I was always interested on like, how can we be prepared, know about this, and then maybe upskill ourselves to go do stuff that we want. The funny thing is a bit of the reverse.
Okay.
That obviously robots ain't here, but we've now got the likes of ChatGPT and AI models that can take knowledge work, which kind of where I've been most of my time. So it's kind of been a real interesting space of like actually this work is taking or doing things that, things that for myself anyway, I don't like to do much admin. So there's opportunity there, but there's a lot of people that have, their life and their roles are around that kind of stuff. So saw that kind of stuff coming, and then in 2022 when ChatGPT dropped, kind of running the entrepreneur space here, we're showing business owners how to use it and showing how you can use ChatGPT to help you with kind of business plans and all the stuff like that. Then I was going home showing my partner like, this is what you could do at work, like all the stuff you guys are doing in paperwork, you can just do it through this kind of stuff. And they were like, oh, should we talk to our family about this? And when we would go to talk to our family about, what AI is, they were like, what is that? I've never heard of it. So for us, it grew this passion inside us of like, man, if they don't know about it, and there's all of these things that are coming, it would be good to do something together around it. So last year, I had already started the journey, but last year my partner jumped out and we started it full time. And now we've gone, across the country, doing workshops all over the country, talking about not just what AI is. I think for us, it's like there's a lot of things you can read online and learn. And there's many pathways you can go to actually become, good at the technology and where it's going. But it's actually trying to start conversations around what does this technology mean? Yes, like how to use it, what it is, but like there are all these downstream effects that are coming, and this technology is going to get better.
Yeah.
How can we kind of mobilize as communities or as whānaus to do something about it before it comes? So a lot of our conversations isn't people asking, like, we want to learn about AI. It's actually more people going, we are fearful of what's coming.
Okay.
We want to have we'd love for you to come in and talk to us about it and see if we can get prepared. So that's what I've been, we've been doing for a while now. And then because I know quite a bit around the technology and what you can do with it, we are also working closely with community organizations to do further training and do further, builds of systems and that, so building platforms and all that stuff. But also, I think a big thing for me is also about how can community groups actually not just have someone come and build this whole system and then run away, and then if you want to change it, you need to hire us for much money to do it again. Yeah, it's actually empowering them to know that, hey, let's co-build this. Yeah. And then, if you want to change things, you can make those changes. And for me, again, comes back to this whole idea, like we can shape things. Probably what's missing is the opportunity to like understand and know how we can change things. Yeah. So a lot of the work we do is actually just being in communities, being in community groups, listening and hearing, what is it that they are fearful about. Like, is this Terminator? Is what we get a lot.
Oh my gosh.
What does this mean to our environment? You know, if we see stuff around the water, energy. What about data sovereignty? You know, how private is our data?
Heaps of different stuff.
Cultural sovereignty. I remember being in a community workshop even last year. People were like, what if? And this was coming from one of the bros that was saying, like, man, like, you know, obviously for our Māori and Pacific people, you know, getting treated by police. It's already a challenge. What if these technologies are in their hands? So like, there's just some unique conversations that are happening.
Wow.
And for us, it was about giving people that space to talk about it. So that's the mahi I do primarily. Is just trying to create space and facilitate. And it could be a group of, I think the smallest one we've done is 4 people in a garage.
Okay, we like
to
that.
about 120 people at a convention center.
Holy.
So we've got a few more, all in that kind of space. But again, it's just creating conversation because there's a lot of things coming. And then where that ties into the other hats is because, one of them being on the Manaiakalani board itself.
Okay.
And kind of coming from that angle of, you know, we're hearing all these conversations about AI. It's not just going to affect the students and the teachers. A lot of the whānau have no idea around this technology as well. So a lot of the, I guess, other hats I wear, I wouldn't say they're all interconnected, but there's a sense of, because of the stuff I've done and the places we're going to, I'm kind of being this kind of voice of reason, I guess.
Yeah.
But not trying to be the reason.
Yeah.
Because we're just a perspective. But I'm like saying, there's all these opportunities that you can do, but there's also these risks, and there's also what people are feeling over here. These are what old experienced people are telling us. This is what some young people are telling us, and just kind of being that person that can support discussions around this stuff. So that's primarily that. And then I guess the other thing is, like, I am a father, so a lot of it is trying to find time to, whether that's coach or watch my son play sport, or, you know, take them out and do stuff. I would say that's probably the most difficult but also most rewarding part of my life. Difficult because I feel part of the journey me and my partner are on is that we have to be so, you know, focused on the work and building it. And then trying to find time for, you know, kids can always be a hard thing. But then again, it's just trying to figure out how to prioritize that and work around it. So I say difficult, not because they're difficult. It's because it's just like trying to live in a modern society, you know, wanting to do some cool stuff or trying to be as present as you can as a parent. There's a lot of hats you have to juggle. And so I will say I do wear hats, but if you knew me 5 years ago, it was a lot more hats. I kind of realized, I'm going to shrink down the hats in order to be a bit more quality with the things I'm doing. So that's where I'm at. I feel like I just said a lot of things.
It's cool. It's cool. I mean, you've answered the question.
See,
to an A+.
I'm good.
I mean, what I'm going to say, Rory, is like you're just such a I keep wanting to say, like, you're just such a person that just gives. Like you're like such a charitable person in terms of time, and I think like that's one of the greatest things about yourself. And I look at even like the way you are with your kids and stuff when you come down to school, and it's really cool. And like me myself as a new father, I look at a lot of different people, including my dad and stuff, but a lot of other kind of like of just like the boys and stuff, and see what they are like with their kids. And it's cool to have like I want to say young dads.
Oh, you can say young.
We're not young.
You can say young.
We're getting up there. Yeah, young dads. But no, you're great with your boys.
Appreciate it.
And like it's cool. And I mean what you've created with your partner and stuff. This place. I think one question I have is I know that you say like you go into all these different spaces and you've got so many different questions, and I know even myself, like I have so many questions about AI, but I also from my parents get asked so many questions about AI. Like I'm sure all of our kids at school probably still do with their parents even. I suppose the question is like, I suppose a lot of it is like you just have to kind of answer it on the spot, these questions that these people have, because you can't plan for questions, so to speak. So is it very much like, how much of a plan do you really have going into these sessions, or is it very much like on the spot, your knowledge? Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, good question. So in terms of like a lot of our workshops and training, like there is a structure that we've kind of built, and we won't share all the magic, but part of the magic is that because we have these conversations over and over, we kind of understand what people usually bring up. So that allows us, like the Terminator question. I think I hear it at every second one.
Wow.
So I've had enough discussion to know like it's probably going to come up again. Let's address it.
Okay.
But also part of our magic and what I really want to speak to as well is like when I kind of first jumped into kind of this space of I guess wanting to know more about technology, like we got exposed to it at school, but I was like just kind of going with it kind of thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I guess high school and university where I was like, oh, this could actually be a career for me, and what does this really mean? So for me, it was like, man, we got to be at the cutting edge, always knowing what's coming, be really right there on the cusp of everything. The more I get into this, I actually realize that a lot of what's more important is actually knowing who you are and the identity you have. And that can go as deep as, your culture, but also just knowing yourself as a person. Because a lot of the challenges coming, like, yes, technology is going to evolve and there's so much more emerging technologies that are coming, like quantum computing and all these other things that, it can't introduce them yet because people are like, I'm just worried about this AI conversation. You're putting too much in my head. But a lot of it is that all it kind of comes back to is change. And, the constant thing that's going to happen is things are just going to change. And when change happens, it's very hard for myself and the average person to go like, who am I through that change?
Yeah.
And that's why I'm going to come back to that whole identity, who you are kind of stuff, is that you got a stability through that whole thing. So it's like, what never changes, like, is my culture. I know who I am. I know where I'm from. Part of like I extend that culture to like where I'm from.
Okay.
So when I'm in spaces, like as much as I say I'm Māori in Cook Island, I'm out there saying I'm from Point England. Like I know like where I'm from. And there's a piece of identity where, with AI as an example, a lot of people's roles are going to change and what they've known for 15, 20, 30 years, for people that have been in the work life that long, saying that I'm going to have to upschool and reschool myself, there's a lot of fear and just people thinking like, man, this thing is coming. It's overwhelming. But again, the more I keep going into these spaces, it's like actually the more you like can stand on your, stand 10 toes deep and say like where I'm from, who I am. Yeah. You feel a sense of stability that I can actually handle whatever change is coming. I don't know what's coming, but I also can feel like comfortable within change.
Yeah, that's
and
cool.
I think for me that's sorry if I'm not even answering the question, but
no, you are.
I think for me, all this is pointing back to is that like, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but like I came out with like school pride more than anything from school. Like, yes, I came out with digital technology and all of that stuff, but I feel like I came out pride going like, but I know where I'm from. Like, yeah, obviously, we didn't always have money, but I feel like part of that was like, I got to learn all these different things and I can stand like 10 toes deep when I go to these spaces. I'm like, I don't have to flutter and all of that. And when I'm having conversations with people, they're all overwhelmed at what's coming. But we always bring it back to the sense of like, but you guys are, got use it more than your work, you are more than these things that are coming.
Yeah.
And I think, a big part of me is like always things about school. Like honestly, like if you ever see me in other settings, you'll see that I say Point England a lot.
Yeah.
And I think like there's something, I think there's actually some truth to it because I feel like I can stand with pride in these spaces.
Okay.
So I think this whole time I was thinking like, how can I be a master of technology? How can I do all these things? It was actually like, I can be confident. And I think a big part of it is because I acknowledge like, I love where I come from. And that's, there's something there. I don't know if I've articulated myself well, but going into these spaces, there is some preparation, but a lot of it is like, I'm staying confident and I'll just talk and I'll facilitate how this is. If I don't know the answer, we can ask ChatGPT. But it's like, you don't have to feel like I'm here to be your answer. I'm here to just facilitate a conversation. And if you want to know more about me, I can tell you a lot.
Yeah. No, I think that's one of another thing about you that that I see, and I think something that you got from your schooling as well is just your like confidence in yourself. To be able to like, and you're right, it's knowing who you are, but it's like, you're right, it's like knowing where you're from, and like people connect with that too, because a lot of people that know, and a lot of people know where you're from because you're so like passionate and open about it too. But yeah, a real thing that people can connect with. I suppose like you're going to like this question because you're always looking towards the future. You're always looking towards next steps and next goals. And I suppose if we look at kind of like, I mean, this is fast forward 20 years of like since being at school, holy heck. But like if we look at when you're at school to where you are at now in your mahi with the space that you're at now, if we think of ourselves as like as a lifelong learner as we do, and keep challenging ourselves. Where do you kind of see yourself? Like, what goals and ambitions do you have for the next 20 years in your space?
That's a
I'm
good
putting you on the
question.
spot.
Nah, it's a good
Yeah.
question. I'll be real with this conversation. I'll say ideally it's being able to focus on being a dad.
Yep.
I think for me, part of that technology conversation and what I wanted to be was also connected to like I want money and heaps of it, so I can do so many cool things. And don't get me wrong, I still want to have a bit of money to be able to do stuff, but I think I'm in this period of my life where I love the work, I love what we do, but I see a sense of, I just want to be a spectator to my kids' games and watch them grow. And I say that all to say too that I think what we're going through is one of the most craziest periods of history that not only are we going to see transformation, but it's going to be rapid.
Yeah.
So, if I even look back to, where I'm now to like coming through school, like there was a lot of change that we went through. For those that are old enough, we didn't have smartphones. We were lucky to get iPods a little bit later in life and thought that was the coolest thing to be able to, put music on a device like that. Now you can just stream music from wherever and, not have dial up and, just do so many things that seem hell of a lot more efficient than they were before.
Yeah.
The next 20 years, I don't think people can understand what's actually going to happen. And I think there's an opportunity in my mind anyway. And just what's kind of happening across the world is that I think we can redesign what life actually looks like. And big part of, I think, modern life is how we work. Again, I'm not against work. I love work. I'll probably say I work too much. But I think big part of work is because we have to go do this thing to make money so then we can pay for whatever we need to pay for. I actually think there's a whole opportunity to be like, what do you want to do in life? And there's some type of system and all that gets us money to continue with life. And when I go into places and say that, people are like, you sound so idealistic, like, how can that happen? And what, is that just AI and robots? And I say there's a big part of that. But because we're going to go through, this rapid change and other emerging technology coming, I think I've been more leaning into like, if I really wanted to wake up and do something every day, what would it be? And it would be like, actually, I'd love to just like hang out with my kids. They're getting into sport now.
Yeah.
They're not into the Warriors, unfortunately, but they
We'll
love
get that.
basketball.
We'll get that.
Yeah, we love the basketball. So really indoctrinated them into my NBA team.
Nice. Nice. We love that.
But there's just something about that experience that, I enjoy so much.
Yeah.
But I probably kind of, I prioritize it, but don't prioritize it enough because I'm trying to concentrate on the next new thing and do that stuff. But if we could have a future where we could just say what we wanted to do and there was mechanisms in which we could still, live and afford and do things, I'd rather try and set that all up so then not just so I can have it, so many other people can actually benefit from it as well. So a lot of the work that we do, like we don't show enough on social media, but we do a lot of things in the background to be like, like let's rethink like life. Because a lot of people tell us, I don't want to go work, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. I'm like, well, we're coming into a period that there's going to be a lot of things that maybe we can leverage to build that. And then we can all do the things that we want to do. So, if it's someone that wants to go paint every day and do all of that.
Yeah.
But knowing that they can paint and not have to worry about if money's coming into the household. So yeah, a lot of what I think where the future's going is that it's going to be such massive change that I don't think it's easy to fathom what's going to happen in 20 years.
Can't even comprehend
But
it.
how can we, while it's happening, say, can we shape, this to be in benefit of us? And I think a lot of the conversation now is more or less how it can benefit those that have large pockets. Where I'm like, no, we can actually, if we know a bit more and are prepared, we can start, mobilizing ourselves to create those futures. So yeah. I think I answered the question, but I think I gave a whole different thought around it.
No, I mean, like that thought is like, I think it's like one of those things where you kind of, you're right. It's one of those things where you kind of can't comprehend it, but you know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think the way you look at it is really cool, actually, because it's kind of like, like if I woke up in the morning, what would I would love to do for the day?
Yeah.
And you're right. It's like, I'd love to spend time with my kids. I'd love to like watch sport with them. I'd love to play sport. Like, I think that's real cool.
Can I just lean into that too? Because I think part of this, people are like, oh, that's saying like, like I do a lot of facilitation right now.
Yep.
I'm saying I still would want to do it, but we might not be talking about necessarily the new technology that's coming out. We might be facilitating in our fantasy groups and having fun, because those things will still exist. But right now, if we would say, is that going to pay the bills? Probably not. So the attention and focus doesn't go there. But I think for me, it's like all the things we currently do, if you still love them, I think there's going to be opportunity to like, still be a teacher, still do different things. But it's not at the mercy of like, I'm only doing it because there's money involved. It's like, no, that's all kind of figured.
Yeah, I get you.
And we can just kind of find things we want to do every day. And that's I'm sure everyone would, like to ask them their question of like, what do I want to do today? So yeah.
But I think like even like you're right, like the podcasting platform, the editing, like all these kind of jobs are going to be huge. And like, I suppose it's going to come down to like the better you are at them, they're going to be where you kind of go. But I also think like your platform, where like you're doing now in terms of like upskilling people with AI, or even just like answering questions like you're saying, but like I think that's going to become huge, because people are going to probably freak out like they already are now. But you're right, it's not going to slow down. Like it will chill out. Will it chill out? I don't know. Like it's not going to slow down. The thing is like, you're right, people are going to have to adapt. And if you don't adapt, you're going to fall behind. And like, even with my job now, everyday life, like I've got mum sending me photos at home, taking a photo of the couch, being like, oh, ChatGPT told me I should have these pillows, so I'm going to go to Kmart right now and buy them. Like it's an everyday thing that's now going to be like, in your position, you literally get to, I don't know, I kind of want to say like shape what kind of some people think about it, kind of like without like being like it's your lens of what you think, and a lot of people are going to take that from what you and your partner kind of see it as, which is like pretty powerful.
It is, and I think that's also the if I had to be open and transparent, that's kind of the tightrope we walk. I try my best to kind of not restrain what I'm saying, because I think big part of what we do is about how people can have their own agency, and I guess in Māori terminology is mana motu hake, like you can self-determine what that is. And I'm always mindful that I'm like, man, I want to go do this and have life I want. But I'm also like, I think the best thing for humanity is for people to decide that on their own. So there is definitely a power there, but we play this kind of balancing thing of like, how much are we influencing the group? And can we pull ourselves back to ensure that the group, says these are the things we want to do?
It's a very fine tightrope, eh?
Mm-hmm.
But I think like in terms of that tightrope that you walk, like I don't think anything that you're saying is like a detriment to it. I think if anything, you're like more upskilling them and understanding exactly what these programs do and how it can support them in their everyday life or job or whatever it may be. Cool, man. Just a couple questions to kind of to wrap us up. First question, largely debated in Aotearoa and the world, but what are your thoughts on students using technology in school?
Well, I think should probably be a no-brainer with everything I've just shared around utilizing it. I have probably, I guess, now being a father and now being in a bit more, I guess, spaces where, there's evidence around it. I think has to be a bit sliding scale. Like, I'll be honest, like when I had my children, I was like, I learned all this technology. I'm going to get them into it young. I kind of probably didn't realize just how having it in younger hands, obviously they're still developing their own brain and all of that you can't expect them to just turn it off. And once they find a game that they like, similar to me, you play it forever. So I think for me, it's like, really acknowledging now is that I think, we should be learning about technology early, but how close to use you get kind of depends on not necessarily age, but maturity around that and having that understanding of how to utilize it. And I think, for what I know around Manaiakalani too, and how it's kind of tackling that challenge, it's like, it's cool. Like I used to think like, man, you should have it at 4 years old and be on an iPad and doing stuff. But obviously there's so many interpersonal skills you probably have to develop before you even get one of those. So for me, I think it's a no-brainer that technology should be part of the curriculum, people doing stuff. People like to say it's part of the future. I'm like, it's now, like it's already existent. And there's just things that are going to develop over time. But I think where my thoughts have kind of shifted is more like, how do you set up people, and especially at a young age, to kind of be prepared to, take on that level of responsibility
Okay.
and all of that stuff as they grow older.
I get you.
Yeah.
It's kind of, cool. Yeah. No, I agree. There's so many amazing things you can do with it. It'll just be, do you want to give a quick shout out to someone in your life who you think made a difference in your life in terms of like making you succeed and where you are now?
Yeah, I think, I guess where I started this whole conversation,
Yep.
definitely my parents. And it's funny, like, I think I watch enough podcasts and videos, and, it's always thanks to the parents. And I always reflect too, like at that time going through, like as a young person, going through adolescence, I think for me anyway, I was like, oh, my parents don't know nothing, they don't know what I'm going through and all of that. But yeah, the more I reflect on life, I'm like, man, my parents were, doing the best with what they had.
Yeah.
And, as I grew older, I got to know a bit more around their stories, and kind of like, for them, and, I don't mind sharing it openly too. Like, they didn't have their parents.
Okay.
So they knew about their parents. My mom was fortunate to have her mother in her life, but they had to come from situations where they were figuring out life by themselves, really. And for them to like be together and try and support me through my stuff, like I kind of realized that without all those things that they went through, they could have, but I feel like they found like, how can we make those changes so then our child is able to live a life that we couldn't.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that through it, and I think now being a father, you kind of see like, dang, like, I actually had, at the time I thought like, bro, we got nothing, we don't have these things. Like my parents were pretty cool, they got me some stuff that some people didn't have at that time. Like, oh yeah, I've got some stuff, but for the most part, they were just trying to figure it out, and try and be the best parents they could with what they knew.
Yeah.
So now being a parent, I'm like, oh man, there's some stuff that I don't want to replicate, because I think there's just something about my own challenges and all that. But some of the things I'm trying to teach my kids around, this is the next step, and you guys will have, I guess, hopefully a greater foundation to do whatever you want. But yeah, why I say them too is because I think kids from an early age, they were saying like, what do you like? Maybe saying it in a different way, but they were saying like, what do you want to be like?
Yeah.
And at that time, it was like, I want to be a NRL star.
Yeah.
But then, my dad would introduce me to other things like, the computer and all that. And like, what about this stuff?
Yeah.
This is where some people are doing some stuff. My dad had no clue what he was kind of getting me into, but he was like, I see people doing some stuff, so maybe hang around it and see what happens and see where it goes. And, funny enough, go to a school that expands on it, and it just kind of continues. So I think a lot of it comes back to my parents, and there are a lot of people I can mention too that have been kind of pivotal, but I think for me, they've really helped me kind of grow this confidence as well. So I attribute it back to school. Like I feel proud to say Point England wherever I go. But I think a big part of it comes from, I come from people that were, they try to make my life better than what they had.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I think like I fully agree. You got to shout out your parents, but I think it's like one of those crazy things that it's not until you become a parent. Like I love my parents unconditionally, but it's not until you become a parent that you like have this next whole appreciation of what your parents did for you in those early ages. Like in terms of myself, like I said, being a new father, it's you appreciate your parents, you love them unconditionally, but when you become a parent yourself, like to think of like what they did for you and those like sacrifices that they took, you're like, man, it just like hits different. It's shout out to our mums and dads out there that that slave away for us, and then but I suppose our last question to wrap up our podcast today, what's one message you'd like to share with adults who may not realize how students in Manaiakalani are being set up to succeed?
Yeah, cool.
Big question.
And I think because there's kind of a few different angles that I could probably come to this with, obviously the different roles and being a father now, and for many they probably don't know, I didn't even share it, is that my son is obviously going to Point England as well. which is so cool. Like, people are like, "Oh, you pushed it that way." I'll be honest, I did. I did influence this decision. And the reason why I influenced that decision is because I knew, what I got out of it, and wanted to very much ensure that my children could, be able to be in a space where they could, gain skills that I gained, but also even further than that. And I think for me, when I think about the question of, what other parents or even other adults may not know, I think there's something around like, yes, there's the digital learning and kind of, I would say, the approach that Manaiakalani has, especially around like learn, create, and share. But I think matching that with what I would say, for most of the schools, coming from communities in which, resources aren't high, I think there's just a type of different thinking that comes with it, And the only thing I could kind of bring it down to is being resourceful.
Okay.
So I believe that when you put resources in front of kids that are always being resourceful, you get creative ways of approaching that. And I think for myself, now being a father, having gone through, a Manaiakalani school, is that I think big part of that, getting exposed and also knowing, coming from spaces where I thought, we could only do so much. I think my ability to see possibilities and see things is, I don't want to say it's better, but it's a lot different. Like, I don't get me wrong, I have challenges in life, and trying to run a business, for anyone that knows, running a business is not easy. But I'm like, right, at worst, I can go sleep back at mum and dad's house.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel a fear of being without.
Yeah.
Because I've seen what that looks like.
Okay.
I think I have this kind of different, I guess, what is it? Oh, I don't know if it's confidence, but it's this different like fearlessness of like, I think we can tackle anything, because you just put a little bit of resource in front of us from people that have nothing. I could do a lot with that.
Yeah, that's cool.
So yeah, it's kind of like this, almost like I'm not afraid to go back, because that's where we came from.
Yeah.
But because I know how to utilize resources once I get it, I'm very confident that we can do some really cool stuff. So I don't think I realized that coming through, and I don't know if adults realize that these children, these students are getting exposed to things that may not be a normal, but because of their upbringings and things they're going through, I think it's a massive advantage. And I feel like I'm leveraged that advantage. I think I go into spaces and have a unique perspective.
Yeah.
Because I've been able to develop that since a young age. So,
yeah.
So yeah, that's what I think.
Right. That's definitely your little mic drop moment. And then that's cool, man. And I agree. I guess it's a different angle to look at, which is cool. Like you think of a lot of like incredible things Manaiakalani do and continue to do. But yeah, that's definitely a way like of being so resourceful like that. Just wanted to say thank you so much for being on our podcast today. Appreciate you and yeah, up the waz.
Up the waz. Thank you for having me, and yeah, no, this was fun.
Awesome. Thanks, bro.